Hello, hockey fans. Austin here with today's podcast where we're going to be discussing what happened at the draft, what the heck is going on with Toronto and Vegas, upcoming free agency with the Oilers. As we all know, tomorrow is free agent frenzy. Do they have enough cap space to sign Bouchard? Are they going to re-sign some of their pending UFAs like Connor Brown, Corey Perry? We'll have to find out. But in today's episode, I do have a very special guest. I have Nolan from the One for One podcast, big Oilers fan, who will be joining me to discuss all things Oilers and all things hockey today. And we're just going to jump right into it. If you like today's video, or if, depending if you're listening on an audio platform, make sure to hit the like button, make sure to share on your socials, tell all your friends, and let's jump into it. Nolan, welcome in. Give yourself a little intro. Tell us about yourself and when you became an Oilers fan, and then we'll get started.
Austin, how the heck are you? It feels like it's been a long time coming. I feel like we've been kind of working on trying to do this for a while, so I'm really happy that this finally came to fruition. Yeah, a little about me. We've had one for one going. I've had it with my co-host Miles for. We just finished our fifth season. We still have to do. We actually still haven't done our like post-mortem episode yet, so we're still kind of waiting on getting all that done. But no, we're on our fifth season. I've been an Oilers fan since I don't know, like '06, previous before '06, like even before '06. But really, like the thing we always tell people is that we became really good friends. At least like Miles and I became really good friends the day the Oilers won the McDavid lottery, and then ever since
Nice.
then we've been super close. And then we started the pod right around after COVID started, or well, it was that first sort of 56 game season, and so it was funny when you kind of go back and listen to it, because not only are we really bad at talking, but we're also trying to gas up Kyle Turris
Oh,
and
yeah.
like
Oh,
Alex
Kyle
Chase
Turris.
on, and yeah, and Slater Cuckoo, that was another good
Oh,
one too.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally get the feeling like when you first kind of start out, and like even when I reflect on some of my first work on YouTube a year and a half ago to now, it's like, wow, like a year and a half ago, I was so awkward. And you were one of the first people that ever like gassed me up and supported me. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like my second or third video you had connected with me on Twitter. So that was pretty cool. Like you said, this has been a long time coming. So I'm really excited to get to have a guest and actually, riff with someone, because it gets lonely in front of the camera sometimes.
Of course, yeah. No, I'm so happy to be here.
Perfect. All right. So today's topics on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube, we have a quick draft recap. We won't go too into detail, but the Oilers did pick a couple players that we do want to discuss, and they did make one very minor trade on draft day. I think a lot of us were expecting a little bit more. There was a bit of smoke coming from Bob Stauffer, but nothing major got done on the Oilers' end. We are going to discuss the Bouchard and McDavid contracts, the short-term versus long-term, what the Oilers should be doing with both, and if Bouchard and McDavid even want to sign 8-year deals with how much the cap is going up. I would imagine maybe they take short-term deals for now. We're going to discuss the coaching staff situation with Edmonton. Glenn Gulletson, of course, is getting hired by the Dallas Stars, so at minimum, they're going to have to hire a new power play specialist, and I don't think Paul Coffey is going to return. We don't know about Mark Stewart, as their contracts are up at the end of July. We will then get into the free agency discussion. We'll kind of go over some of the UFAs that I think the Oilers should be targeting, and then, of course, I'm sure Nolan has some free agents that he wants to talk about. We'll talk about the goaltending tandem. We'll talk about the Toronto and Vegas drama. Even though it's not Oilers related, I think it is absolutely fascinating. I want to know what happens there between Marner. Toronto's basically extorting Vegas right now, so I want to know how the league is going to deal with this. And then we'll have our question of the day, which all of you can see on the screen. What would be considered a success this off season? And you can just put your answer in the comment section below. So with that out of the way, quick little draft recap. I'm going to bring up who the Oilers drafted on the screen, and then I will throw it over to Nolan. I'm not sure how much research you've done on these players, but it does sound like the Oilers got a pretty good player with their first pick, Tommy Lafreniere. We'll take a quick look at him. Age 18, he was chosen 80th overall, 5'11", 172. He had 24 goals in 68 games. Then they took David Lewandowski, who apparently is also very good, 6'1", 177 from Germany. So maybe we have another future German with Draisaitl on the team. And then I'm going to be honest, I don't know anything about Asher Barnett, Daniel Salonen, or Aiden Park. I just know Aiden Park is a from the LA area, and he was in attendance on day 2 of the draft. So getting to see that little story was fun. Nolan, what do you think about the Oilers draft? How do you think they did?
I think that they did what they could with the assets that they had. I think that you're kind of playing with a short deck right from the get-go. So I think that they took players that they clearly really liked, and it's so clear from at least these first 2 drafts under Rick Pracey that they kind of have a player they're looking for. They're looking for that sort of two-way, can kind of grind guys down, that can get on that can get in on the forecheck, and really just play hard is kind of is sort of what we hear, but also have a little bit of skill to them. I think that I haven't obviously watched any of these guys, but from everything you read about, is it Lafreniere? Yeah, it is Lafreniere. It sounds like he's kind of like a Sam O'Reilly light, for lack of a better term. I like that they didn't take guys that only had 20 points in 60 OHL games. So that's a bit of a head start that you're working with. But I mean, at this point, like, from the actual draft pick standpoint, I think that it's fine. I honestly couldn't get too worked up at this point over those guys.
Absolutely. They did trade into the 5th round. That was the only trade that the team made. There was talk from Bob Stauffer. He kind of, hinted when Bob Stauffer throws out his little hints during his show that fans would have something to talk about on draft day, and then we didn't really get that. So I kind of want to know your thoughts on that, and if the big talk was just what the Oilers did before the draft, during, was it regarding the CBA, or was Bob Stauffer, maybe there was something in the works and maybe it didn't come to fruition?
Well, I mean, you hear, for one, we did get the big Trent Frederick contract finally, finally done that day. So, it's funny. I kind of got burned because I tweeted from the 1-for-1 account that I said to people that I'm gonna commit to a new bit this summer, which is every time the Oilers make a good organizational decision, I'm gonna determine how much of a bang it gets. If it's like a really good move, it's like a double bang. If it's a bad move, it's a no bang. If it's a sort of, like a come see come saw sort of move, it's like a lowercase bang. So I was like, are we gonna get a bang tomorrow? And a lot of impressions on it. A lot of people reacted to it, but nothing happened, and the Bob father let us down a little bit. I'm hoping that it wasn't just a Trent Frederick contract was what he was referring to. You never know. It could be something where, I mean, we're talking for the next probably hour or so, I would assume, but I would assume if something comes through the pipeline while we're recording, that would be amazing. But I was a little tad bit disappointed by that.
So was I. I was expecting something. Obviously, we know their cap situation. They're pretty cap strapped. We thought that certain guys might be on the move. There's still talks that Victor Arvidsson is going to be moved before free agency opens. You had Tarasenko moved from Detroit to Minnesota today, so Detroit has some cap space now. There has been smoke between Arvidsson and the Red Wings. He could go back and play for Todd McLellan again. Arvidsson and McLellan have a connection. But yeah, in terms of like the actual movement at the draft, the bigger moves happened between other teams. You had Noah Dobson get traded to Montreal in a sign-in trade, which was crazy. Montreal's defense is, I don't know, that's wild. If they don't have the puck in their own zone, Montreal is going to be absolutely outrageous to watch. Like, the amount of puck movers they have and speed is nuts. I was hoping the Oilers were going to do something a little bit more. They also did draft a goalie, and I also do want to touch on the Trent Frederick contract. I did make a video on that myself on my own channel, but I do want to discuss it a little bit further because there's a lot of discourse surrounding that deal for Trent Frederick.
Oh, yeah.
But quickly, Daniel Salonen was the goaltender that the Oilers drafted, who apparently was 24-1. Was that his record in Finland? He had a .909 save percentage, .253 goals against average. No idea what he projects, like if he does project to be a starter. But the Oilers do take a goaltender late in the 6th round. And, you know, we see them take a goaltender in the 6th round this year. We remember a few years ago, we really wanted them to take Wallstead. We were hoping that they could trade up and take Askarov during his draft. And like, I just feel like the Oilers have missed out on goalies. And now we have this goalie discourse, which again, we will talk about later today. But what do you think about them taking Salonen? It sounds like he's pretty good, but again, he's...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of weird when it comes to drafting goalies. I've actually subscribed to this new theory, which is, in my humble opinion, I believe every goalie that you draft, you should just immediately try and play them in the NHL. Because you know what? Why not? Like,
yeah,
we've learned this entire time that goaltending is voodoo. It doesn't matter. It honestly does not matter. The only guy, I mean, you watch, Connor Hellebuck win a Vezina and a Hart in the regular season and then turn into a buffoon in the playoffs. Like, I wonder if it makes sense to just, take a guy in the 6th round and be like, I almost swore there for a second, so I apologize if you don't want me to swear.
If you swear, that's okay. I can always bleep it. No, it's all good. You can swear if you want. We're vibing.
But it's like 6th round. Fuck it, we'll throw this guy in. We're gonna see what happens. Who knows? Maybe he throws up 6 shutouts this season. But and it's like, and then you get those guys cost controlled at $900K a year or whatever. But I don't know. Like, I just don't know if we can really predict these guys. Obviously, like, I think where it matters is like 1st round pedigree. I do think that there is something to that. With somebody like a Wallstedt, I really wanted the Oilers to get Wallstedt at that time because that drove me nuts. I remember him falling into their lap. I remember exactly where I was. My dad has like a summer trailer, and I was at his trailer for the night. It was supposed to be a nice night where we had a barbecue, and I watched the draft on my phone. And the moment that the tweet came through saying the Oilers are moving back, I like dropped to my knees in heartbreak, like I was Furiosa in Mad Max Fury Road in the desert. No, that was me, because I was like, oh, cool. And then they drafted freaking Xavier Bourgault. I'm like, yeah, not gonna work out. I can tell you that for free.
Yeah.
And so I think that you obviously want to go for guys with that pedigree, but when you get to like the anywhere from the 2nd to the 7th round, I think it kind of just like you're throwing darts at the wall and just seeing what hits.
Seeing if anything can hit. I did take some GM and scouting courses through Sports Management Worldwide, and I've like talked to former NHL GMs, current NHL GMs, and scouts, pro, amateur scouts, and they all agree, like, after the 1st round, it is legitimately just, you hope that you pick someone that will eventually just develop and become something, because like you said, it's just, you're throwing darts at a board and you're hoping for the best. I don't know. But with the amount of parity too in a lot of leagues worldwide, like, everything's becoming so even, where a guy being picked 90th overall and 45th overall, they essentially have almost the same chance of like turning into something or turning into nothing now.
I will say the guy that the Oilers drafted with the last pick was his. He was Park. Was it Park?
Aiden Park?
His last name?
Yeah,
Aiden Park. Honestly, like judging by watching his like little sort of like, not post game, but like his post draft interview.
Yeah,
I'm kind of buying into this guy. I
like him.
I know
it's
a
his
lot.
vibes.
I know it's a lot to read into a post draft interview of the second last pick in the 2025 NHL entry draft. But you know what? It's not completely out of the realm of possibility this could be Joe Pavelski. Like, who are we kidding?
I mean, that's quite the name to throw out. If I knew anything about Aiden Park other than his availability when he was picked by Edmonton, I would maybe gas that up a little bit more. But I just it sucks, because I'm usually pretty in tune with the prospects, and last year I did a live stream during the 1st round, but this year I didn't end up doing one because I just didn't have enough information on this draft class. But I know next year in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes I will be much more in tune with it. But
of course.
Moving on from the draft, before we get into Bouchard and McDavid, I do want to talk about the Trent Frederic contract. It is 8 years, $3.85 million per season. No move clause for the first 4 years, then a modified no trade. I think it's 10 team in years 5 and 6, and then 20 team in years 6 or 7 and 8. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Something like that.
for a player like Frederick, where I think a lot of fans in Edmonton, they haven't been exposed to him other than his playoff run. He played 24 games. He only had one goal. He looked slow to get to different areas. He wasn't as physical as what he's been hyped as coming out of Boston. But as someone that watches the Bruins as much as he watches the Oilers, because the Bruins are my second favorite team, what we saw in the playoffs is not reflective of who Frederick is or has been as a player. The team is banking on him rebounding from the high ankle sprain. Do you think he can rebound from that high ankle sprain? And what do you see in this player? Is it worth 8 years? Like, should we be giving middle six forwards 8-year deals? Like, that's where the question marks start to come in.
I think I watch a lot of I listen to a lot of Bill Simmons, and he has this quote that I like to always drop on people, which is you gotta take a sip of some settle down juice with the Trent Frederick contract, ladies and gentlemen, because it's sticker shock, right? Like we're currently in an era of sticker shock where guys like even Nick Hague are getting $5.5 million a year. Like on paper doesn't sound great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the fact, right? But I also think we need to think about how players are being forecasted into the roles that they're going to be in, right? So we had this conversation about Zach Hyman, 4 years ago, which I can't believe we're on the back half of the Zach Hyman contract at this point. Where has time gone?
Yep.
But I think that when it comes to Frederick, this is clearly a player that a lot of teams really value for what he brings to the table, because we've seen not only in the Florida series, but we also saw in the various, in the series against, or the, sorry about that, Hurricanes Capital series and things like that.
Yeah.
That, guys like Tom Wilson are really important. And I think that, and I'm not calling Trent Frederick Tom Wilson. I think Trent Frederick is a really good hockey player. And I think that, we're looking at such a small sample size of how he looked in the playoffs, and we're kind of writing off who he is as a player. Like, if you just look historically, he scored 17 and 18 goals back-to-back seasons. Is just for lack of a better term, absolute prick to play against in the playoffs. Throws hits. I think that this is a long-term bet by management to find a guy that realistically, because I've said this to a couple people, Austin, like, if Trent Frederick has close to like the Evander Kane playoff run where he, puts up 12 points in 22 games.
Yeah.
How much money does Trent Frederick get on the open market? Like 5?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah.
That would be the starting point, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the way I'm choosing to look at it. Is I think that they got pretty lucky in the fact that they bought low on a player that I really do believe could have gotten a ton of money on the open market if he had a better playoff run.
Yeah.
And so who knows, maybe this stinky playoff run is a blessing in disguise and will, help with the cap hit. And I mean, you at this point, you just got to hope that Trent Frederick finds his game. And I do think that we're going to find that. It's a high ankle sprain, takes a while to come back from, but I think they'll be able to figure it out.
I could not agree more. And I know with Trent Frederick as well, in the video that I did on him when I talked about this contract, in the last 3 seasons, if you break down the sample size over the last 3 years, his points per 60 is better than Evander Kane and Brad Marchand. So, he doesn't play a lot in, he plays penalty kill, but his 5-on-5 production based on the minutes that he was getting in Boston was very solid. This year, again, I consider it an outlier because of his injury. And I do think that this is a great player, and a lot of fans get hung up on the 8 years. Well, look how much the salary cap is ballooning over the next 3 or 4. By the time this contract is up, it's really nothing. It's just a little small blip on their roster construction. But a lot of fans, too, we always get upset when players don't want to come to Edmonton and sign here, and then we get a player that clearly loves the team, loves from day one, and he's American. Yeah, he's from the St. Louis area. A lot of people thought he would, maybe hit the market and try and sign with his hometown Blues, but he loves Edmonton. He loves the opportunity, and I agree. I think he can be a huge difference maker. I would not be surprised to see him play a lot of top 6 next season, just because of the element that he does bring.
Agree.
And of course, he'll be great on the penalty kill. And again, it's just a style of player that there's not a lot of, and usually you do pay a bit of a premium for the ones who are effective at their role. But Frederick, he's not just a bruiser. He's also kind of a psychopath, though. There were times in Boston where he'd get into a fight and he's bleeding and he's like laughing at his opponent. Dude, I'm gonna link a couple of those fights for those to watch after they watch this, because like dude is legitimately psychotic, I think, but in like a good way. I love him.
Yeah. I did the math too, because they say I think Chris Johnston was the one that said like in 3 or 4 seasons the cap is probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of like $118 million.
Yeah.
Assuming all goes well. Like, quick math for anybody. Does anybody know how much money that is in 100? Like how much money 3.8 or 3.85 is in a $118 million cap world? Beep boop beep. It's about $2.5 million in today's cap world. So
exactly.
I do think we gotta sort of tone it down a little bit, because I do think this deal is gonna age pretty well. It may not age very well in the back 3 years of it, but that's a 3 years from now, or that's a 5 years from now problem.
And 5 years from now, the whole, like, the core of this team is in their mid-30s. Most are going to be entering their twilight years, and the team, depending what goes on by then, like, I'm not even worried about what happens 6 years from now. I'm just worried about the next 3 or 4 years, and he's going to do great for the next 3 or 4 years, and he'll be a huge impact player.
Completely agree.
We'll move on to Evan Bouchard and Connor McDavid. Speaking of big contracts that they may or may not get. First, we'll start with Bouchard. Now, we've seen guys like Noah Dobson get $9.5 million a year times 8. We just saw Ekblad. That news just came through. You informed me of the Ekblad news with Florida. Do you have the Ekblad contract information up? Has that been posted anywhere?
It is 8 years times 6.1. So I'm pretty sure most of the insiders have it thus far. So $6.1 million. I don't know the terms yet.
Okay.
I obviously just haven't checked Twitter since then, so I don't know if there's like a no movement clause built in or anything like that. I'm assuming he probably has. If I'm guessing correctly, probably a no move for the first 5 years of that deal, and then I would assume maybe something opens up on the back half. But
absolutely,
I mean, it's Florida, man. It's Florida. Like,
it's Florida
every time. Yeah, you let them off the mat, and they just immediately find a way. So now all their focus is going to obviously be on, or all their focus now is going to be on trying to re-sign Brad Marchand. And if they do that, then
I mean, yeah, they're
G.
Yeah, they're nasty. But when we take a look at what Bouchard could and should get, because could and should are very different answers from a lot of fans. You have a large section of the Oilers fan base that thinks he is so putrid defensively that the offense doesn't make up for it, and he should only get $6 million a year. You have people that think he is one of the best defensemen in the entire NHL and should get $13 million a year. I'm someone that thinks that he's in that like conversation of being like top 10 in the entire league. I think his offense more than makes up for whatever defensive warts he has. I think the problem that fans get hung up on sometimes with Bouchard is like he's on the ice for 27 minutes a night. So there's going to be shifts every now and then where it looks like optically, it looks like he's not skating hard or trying hard. But players of his type, he is obviously working his butt off. I don't think there's a laziness factor. I do think brain farts happen. Every defenseman has them.
Oh, yeah.
But every metric imaginable out there, whether it's actual metrics or underlying metrics, Bouchard is so effective in his own zone at translating the puck out and getting on offense that good defense is not even being stuck in your own zone at any point. And Bouchard is so good at that. And, we just saw Dobson get $9.5 million. What do you think Bouchard gets? And what do you think he should get? Because we see players taking these, quote unquote hometown discounts. What do you think is going to happen here?
I've said from the very beginning that I do believe it's going to be at least 10. And I remember I had a tweet. I had a tweet about a year ago where I was like, if Evan Bouchard takes a penny less than $10 million, we should build a statue of him in Edmonton. And our boy Jim Matheson quote tweeted it, was like, sorry, Bouchard's not getting 10. He's not getting more than Makar. Well, Jimbo, guess you came out on the right side of that one, my friend.
Jimbo's the funniest follow on Twitter, man.
I love Jimbo. But I yeah, I think it's an even 10 million. I think that when you look at the Dobson contract, depends how you view Dobson. Do you view Dobson as a peer to Bouchard, or do you see him as somebody that is substantially less than Bouchard? Because I'm personally not a huge Dobson guy.
Yeah.
I the only I like him. I think that he would work if Evan Bouchard wasn't on this team. But I think that you have to look at it as how much more is Evan Bouchard worth than Noah Dobson, and what does he bring impact wise?
Yeah.
And to what you were saying earlier about like all of the value he provides offensively, I completely agree because I believe that the best defense is a good offense. Puck can't go in the back of your net if it's always in the other zone. And
Yeah.
before somebody says that it's the Connor McDavid effect, you were silly and we need to smack you on the bum for having such a poopy take. But no, I think that Evan Bouchard, he's such a good litmus test to how you view hockey,
Yeah.
because I find that so often, or more often than not, people are looking at the play on the puck and the puck going into the net, and instead of looking at like the actual play and how it's evolving, there's a play, I want to say it was against San Jose. It was during that really kind of crappy stretch for the Oilers.
Yeah.
And or no, Tampa. That's right. It was the
Tampa.
Tampa game. It was the Brandon Hagel goal. Do you remember that one?
Yes,
I don't know
I
if you
do.
remember it at all.
Yeah.
Where and it was the one where like Stu had so much room, or he had, sorry, not so much room. Basically, Bouch let off on the play, let off on Hagel, but he was covering the pass. He was so clearly taking away the pass if you're just watching the play.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, I'm giving Skinner a little bit of room. Hopefully he can make the stop. And he doesn't. And then that play gets blamed on Evan Bouchard.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I do agree with you, though. He does have his warts. He has his moments that don't look great. But I think what he brings to this lineup and how good he is, if he does take a 10 by 8, I doubt, for some reason, a lot of the insiders are saying it's a 4-year deal, and that scares the shit out of me. But if he somehow takes a 10 by 8, that is a massive discount for the Oilers. I can tell you that right now.
I 100% agree. I think anything under 10.5 would be considered like a win for Edmonton. Do you think higher AAV or lower AAV on a long-term deal? Like if you go 8, can you push the AAV down, or like it's just tough because like I'm not seeing a lot of, like, normally you see a lot of the numbers being floated by insiders, and like some insiders have said anywhere between 9.5 and 12, and that's just such a massive range. This is one of those situations where like a lot of times you see players, you see the numbers thrown around, and then they do sign for one of the, like, pretty close. But there is a range with Bouchard, and it'll be interesting to see what he eventually settles on. I hope they can lock him up to 8 years. I'm tired of these short-term deals because of Bouchard. And it's not just the regular season. Look at what he produces in the playoffs too. Like you also have to take that in consideration. Like a guy like Dobson, no offense to the Islanders, they just haven't been great, hasn't been able to show himself in the playoffs very much. But Bouchard's impact in the postseason to help them win games, his clutch factor, he was instrumental in coming back against LA. The game 4 I went to against the Kings this year, and he had 2 goals in the third to tie it, and then the Oilers get a power play.
Oh, yeah, you lucky bastard. I forgot you got to see that.
First ever playoff game, might be my last ever playoff game, because I gotta go out on a high on that one. And also my heart can't take this team sometimes in the playoffs. But Bouchard, I would hope they can get an 8-year deal done. If it's 4 or less, that kind of stinks. And if you're Bouchard's camp, like if I'm Bouchard's agent, I just point at Darnell Nurse's contract and his production, and then I point at Bouchard's contract or his production, especially in the playoffs, and I go, okay, well, obviously my client deserves at least, like, if we're just comparing here to a guy like Nurse. And this is not to disrespect Darnell Nurse, he's overhated, but at the same time, this contract is always going to be referred all the time in discussions like this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think Bouchard, whatever he asks for, I think he deserves, but the fan base is going to be polarized no matter what.
Yeah, I it's kind of a catch-22 when it comes to like long-term deals, right? Because if a guy is an RFA and you're buying more years, then the price clearly goes up. But if it's a UFA and you're trying to keep a guy, or if you're trying to keep a guy around, you're giving him long-term security. So you would assume that the cap hit would go down, but it just doesn't work like that when you have a rising cap. That's why, good Lord, Ken Holland, you should have just signed him to a 7x8 when you had the chance.
Yep.
Uh-oh, wow. I'm shocked that Ken Holland doesn't know how to handle contract negotiations. But yeah, I mean, it all depends on how much he wants to win. Like, right? Like,
Yeah.
if Evan Bouchard wanted to, he could go to the open market and he could go get an offer from a team like I don't know who's a San Jose, and be like, hey, I will be your number one defenseman for the future, and you can pay me $14 million. But I think that he knows what he has around him and what is so important, and ultimately he's a dog, and that's the one thing I've loved about this Oilers team thus far is they do have a lot of dogs on the roster. I mean, we got blessed by the fact that our two superstars are the doggiest of dogs, and then it just helps that our best defenseman is also a quote unquote dog.
Yeah.
So I think he's a guy that really values winning. So, like I said, I think it's going to come in at 10. I'm hoping it's 8 years. I'm a little worried by all the reporting from all the insiders, but here's to me hoping that Stan Bowman has some rabbit up his ass and he's like, here you go. 8-year contract, $10 million. Yeah. Because otherwise, if you're having to renegotiate in 4 years for Evan Bouchard, he will be a $14 million defenseman.
Yeah. 100%. And I was actually just speaking of $14 million defenseman. Quick question. If they don't get a deal done before free agency opens, does someone offer sheet him? And if yes, how much is he being offered through an offer sheet?
The only way he gets an offer sheet is if Carolina does it. That's the only team I'm scared of. Other than that, I don't really care about anybody else. And I think that if Carolina does it, they do it to like 7 times 12. And that's the move. And then Edmonton's like, oh my God, what happened?
If I was a team with like a ton of cap space, even if I'm just like, I don't know, a team that's not even remotely contending, and if I had the cap space, I would just, if you just want to screw over Edmonton and Bowman, you just give him max. And then just like potentially forfeit 4 first-round picks.
Yeah, I mean, fair. So that's the other thing too, right? Is like, does Stan Bowman look at the situation and say, I can kind of do a lot with 4 first-round picks, like, but you know, you're letting loose a defenseman that's in conversations with Bobby Orr in the postseason, so maybe not good to get off of him.
Exactly. We'll pivot from Bouchard to Connor McDavid. We know as of tomorrow, July 1st, he is eligible to sign an extension. He still has 1 year left on his current contract. Do you think he signs 8 like Leon? Do you think he goes 7? Do you think he goes 4? We know Austin Matthews, he signed a shorter term deal on his newest contract with Toronto. Some of the stars, there's a lot of talk that they'll sign shorter term deals and then just keep maximizing contract after contract with how much the cap is going up. Or do you see McDavid? Do you think he is fully committed? He wants to see this through with Leon, with the organization, and sign an 8-year deal?
Honestly, knock on all the wood I can find, but I think Connor McDavid made his priorities very clear, which is he wants to win hockey games.
Yeah.
And I think it behooves him not to get an 8-year deal and with a no movement clause, because at that point, worst case scenario, if the Oilers aren't winning, he's got them by the metaphorical balls. And the fact that he can dictate where he goes and what he wants, and then those teams can dictate how much they're actually willing to pay up.
Yeah.
So if you want to lock in a long-term extension at a certain number, no matter what, the Oilers are not safe. There's a lot of discourse, a lot of people talking about the Oilers and, Connor doesn't want to commit long-term because, he wants to make sure that the Oilers are doing everything they can to win hockey games. It's like, do you not realize how much power Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl have over OEG? Like, everything revolves around them. And that's not a slight against those players.
No.
But that is a fact, that a lot of stuff that goes on in that organization, whether it be roster construction, whether it be coaching, it does go through them. And that's what you're supposed to do with superstar players. You are always supposed to talk to your talent and find out what they think about a certain move, whether it be coaching, whether it be a trade, whether it be a free agent acquisition. those things happen. So it's nothing new. So this idea that Connor McDavid is like wanting to make sure that the Oilers are doing everything they can to win, like clearly they are. And they also don't want to be the ultimate bag fumblers of like a generation by not winning a Stanley Cup with 29-97.
Right. Well, and like it just makes me think of, when Ray Bourque was on Boston, spent 20 years in Boston, didn't win a cup, and then finally at age 40, they do move him to Colorado to give him that opportunity. With McDavid, I could see a guy like McDavid with just how he presents himself. I know I obviously don't know him personally, but I could see him just trying to stick it out as long as humanly possible with the organization that drafted him. He seems like someone that wants to get the job done here, wants to bring the cup back to Edmonton, cement his legacy, and do what he can on the ice. Of course, in interviews, he says, if someone asks him a question about like roster construction, he always is like, well, you have to, before it was, ask Ken that question, or now it's ask Stan that question. But like you said, the OEG make sure that they are doing what they can to help this core win. And Leon and Connor are the two players that I'm thankful that we have an ownership group that is willing to do whatever and spend whatever. I just wish that they would hire the right people to kind of oversee how to put together that winning formula. If you're McDavid, though, like from his perspective, you've been to 2 Stanley Cup finals in a row. Last year was such a heartbreak. You fight all the way to get back to 3-0 down, Game 7. You lose by 1 goal, absolute heartbreak. And then he said this year was kind of like he's more angry than upset because the team wasn't really in any game, honestly, other than Game 1. Like Florida steamrolled Edmonton. They were lucky to get 2 wins, in my opinion. So do you look at the Oilers and go, okay, like, are we really that close? Or is there like another level that we've seen Florida hit, and what will it take for Edmonton to get there? And can they do it? Does he give the organization the 8 years to do that, or does he give them like 3 or 4 years? Because if he only signs 3 or 4 years, I think that puts even more pressure on the OEG to really, okay, like this is hammer time. We have potentially only 4 years left of Connor in his prime. Let's make sure that we get a cup here. So I just want to know your thoughts on that quick before we move on.
Yeah, I think Connor's in it for the long haul. I guess I didn't really answer your question when you first asked, but I do believe it's going to be an 8-year deal. I think that we're going to probably see an 8-year deal worth. You know what? I know that Connor would definitely get in shit from the PA for this one. I think we're going to see a 15/8, and that's the move. There's all these projections over 17 and 19 and 16 and
because he could get whatever he wants, right?
I mean, the guy could be a $20 million hockey player for all we care, right?
Yeah.
So I think he's going to take 15. He's going to say, "Yep, I'm going to get a little bit more than Leon, but ultimately this is what's going to be most important." And then he'll be locked in long term. And then by years 5 and 6 of that deal, hopefully he's got 2 Stanley Cups under his resume, and he'll be like, "Yeah, we can go for another one." And I'm only making, I don't know, 12% of the cap. Like that's pretty nice.
Don't mean to cut you off here. Some breaking news coming from Cam Robinson. Bouchard contract. 4 years.
What?
Yeah.
You did?
4 years, $10.5 million per, which is right in the ballpark. That's 10.5 is what, but it's only 4 years. 10.5 was the number that's the number that I said. I was like, it'd probably be 10.5. And this, for those of you watching or listening right now, this has literally been tweeted 2:15 p.m. local time. It is 2:18 p.m. Like this just came through. None of us saw this before we started recording. So this is actually breaking news as we're recording. I've never had breaking news happen while recording a podcast.
Is going to be an unrestricted free agent at 29 years old.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But 10.5, like how did I feel like they
yeah, you have to get him at least 10. You have to get him at 10 at 4 years. I'm sorry. Like there's oh my God.
But if the number's 10.5, could they not go 8 years at 10?
Like, well, that's what they should have done. That's what should have happened. Is if at that point a 10-year or an 8-year contract should be worth, or sorry, oh my God, I can't even speak right now. I'm so flustered. Like $10.5 million should get you 8 years.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, taken behind the woodshed on this one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
oh my
obviously I'm
God. And it's
happy.
like,
Like, I don't want to sound like I'm not happy that
yeah,
he's re-signed, because this is the number that we figured, and I think it's a good number. It's $1 million more per year than what Dobson got, but Dobson signed for 8. Yeah, becoming a UFA at 29, and if he continues to produce the way he does, like, he's gonna be, I mean, I don't even want to know what the number's gonna. Again, I already said earlier, I'm not worried about 5 years from now, so maybe I just won't worry about it. But I'll let you kind of give your thoughts here, because
this is the John Carlson contract. Like, this is what happened with John Carlson. He signs a bridge deal, I think, and then I think it was right after their Stanley Cup win, and that was when Carlson got the. So that was the 17-18 season. He then got, I believe, an 8 times 8.5, which in the 17-18 season, that's got to be like, I don't even know how much what the cap was at that time. Was it like 80 million bucks or something like that? But I mean,
something, yeah.
Yeah, he got a pretty hefty contract for I mean, and that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't understand how they don't get 8 years with this guy. I just don't
Yeah.
get it. I don't understand it. So now the Oilers have to go back to this, and they have to go back to scouting and saying, "Hey, yeah, we have to get another. We have like they have to start drafting puck movers like right now,
Yeah. I
because otherwise,
agree.
like, they're going to be worrying down the road."
Yeah. So now that we see Bouchard signed for 4, we'll circle back to the McDavid question. Does he go 4 now as well?
No, I still think he goes 8.
Still think he goes 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's clicks. There's clicks in that dressing room, and Connor and Leon have their own click, and
Yeah.
I think that they're simpatico in what they do.
Yeah, and their friend group is very tight knit. Their spouses are very tight knit. No, I agree with that. For those of you who are tuning in, make sure you let us know your thoughts on the Bouchard contract. Of course, I will have my own separate video regarding that after today. I'll probably talk about it tomorrow during Free Agent Frenzy. But we are going to have to move on. We'll talk about the coaching staff. Glenn Gulutzan, it was reported by numerous insiders that he is being hired by the Dallas Stars to be their next head coach. Of course, he did coach them just over a decade ago for about a year and a half before he was let go. We don't know what the terms are of that deal, but the Oilers are now down a power play specialist. What do you think of the Oilers having to, find someone that can do what Glenn Gulutzan was doing, how easy that is, and do you think that's a good or negative, but positive or negative for Edmonton?
You know what, man? I gotta be honest. I'm not losing sleep over losing Glenn Gulutzan. I
Yeah.
think that Glenn Gulutzan seems like a nice guy. He seems like a good vibes coach, but
Oh, he's passionate too. Like every time a goal's scored, he's the most excited guy on the bench.
I mean, we've seen him break sticks on the ice in Calgary. Let's not forget that. That
Chuck
guy's
him
got
20 rows up.
That guy is emotional. So I'm not I'm not too upset about losing him from like a tactician standpoint, because boy, when the Oilers power play gets stale, it gets stale.
Yes.
And it feels like the team has no they have no adjustments to be made, and it's like, okay, instead of Bouch setting the pick and Connor coming in with the puck, we're actually going to have Nuge set the pick and then Connor come in with the puck. And it's just and there's no movement.
And if the pass to Draisaitl's there, make sure that you always try and force it through the middle to Draisaitl.
Yes. Yeah. Even if there's 15 sticks in the way,
try and
still
got
to try and find 29. Yeah. So I think that I think it'll be fine. I just hope that this is like, I saw somebody suggest Bruce Boudreau as a, and I'm like, I don't care about Bruce Boudreau. Like, I don't know. I would just rather give
Bruce
me somebody
is good
that's
vibes.
creative.
Like, I like Bruce just because
Bruce
he's good vibes. But
yeah.
Maybe someone more forward thinking, someone that can get some movement. Like you said, when it's stale, like the whole series against Florida. Now, credit to the Panthers penalty kill. They had the best penalty kill in the playoffs this season for a reason. They can make good power plays look anemic, and the Oilers definitely looked anemic on their power plays. Aside from that one incredible individual effort from McDavid in Game 2 where he fed Draisaitl for the one-timer. Dipsy doodled around 3 Panthers. But again, that's like individually that Oilers power play can do things. But I agree with you. When they're always looking for the one play, or they do the same play, but they just rotate which players are setting the play. I would like to see more movement. There's different power plays that I watch, and you see how quick they're firing that puck around, and they're forcing defenders to skate, and then after 40 seconds, those penalty killers are so tired, and then you can start to get
Florida's
the looks
a good
that you
example.
want. Yeah.
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 It's I've always suggested this, but like why don't the Oilers switch it up where they just put like Bouch in like the Ovechkin zone?
Yeah.
Like have him at the circle and let him rip it, because I don't understand this, like, because even still, like, I would prefer to have Connor like run the point and just kind of work things around and try and find everybody, and I would just let Evan Bouchard just rip it from the circle. Who knows, maybe they start to do that now that they have him on a 4-year deal and they don't have to worry about paying him next year. But, but I completely agree with you. Like, it just went anemic. It was quiet, slow, plodding. I'm assuming we're going to talk about the other assistant coaches, because holy shit, do I ever have a problem with the penalty kill?
Yes. So Mark Stewart currently runs the penalty kill. His contract is up at the end of February. And then we have Paul Coffey, who is running the defensive core. His contract also up at the end of July. I don't think Paul Coffey's coming back. I don't think he ever wanted the job. I think he fought tooth and nail to not get hired, but I think they had guys there like Chris Knobloch. When a coach comes in, they usually don't get rid of the assistants within that first year, just because you want someone that's been with the organization to kind of help them out. But Chris Knobloch now, he's had almost 2 full seasons with the team, 2 Cup Finals appearances. I think even if you wanted whatever the situation is as the organization, you let those contracts run out, and then you let Knobloch decide who he wants to bring in. But let's talk about Mark Stewart and the penalty kill, because last year in the playoffs, best penalty kill of all time in the playoffs is what Edmonton had. In the regular season, they were up and down. This year, again, up and down in the regular season. They could go 30 straight kills without allowing a goal, and then they'll go 30 kills where they allow 15 goals. So I definitely give me your thoughts on that. Sounds like you have some stuff to say.
I mean, I think that the quote unquote best penalty kill in the history of the NHL in the playoffs just went on a substantial PDO heater more than anything. It's funny. We actually have a listener of the show that always pops in. He's actually a buddy of ours, but he always makes a point to message me anytime I talk about PDO heaters, and he's like, "Actually, PDO doesn't exist," and I'm like, "Actually, it does, because
it does exist."
He's a big time Canucks fan, and he was not happy about the smack I talked about them in our season preview. And lo and behold, guess who was right? Oh, yeah. But no, I just I don't know. I think that for one, the big thing that stood out to me was, and this isn't necessarily a coaching issue. I mean, it kind of is, but penalty kill immediately comes on the ice. Who comes over the boards? Adam Henrique and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Yeah. I love Nuge, love him to death. A 32-year-old and a 35-year-old should not be the first ones coming on the ice on a kill. Yeah. Call me crazy. I just think that's a little silly.
Unless they have face-off acumen that someone that like Patrice Bergeron had. Because Bergeron, he'd win 65% of his draws, but Nuge doesn't.
And you also got to have the boots and the awareness to get the puck out of the zone. And that was the problem, is Florida. I mean, we just got to look back at the series against Florida. Like, you got to look at the final. Like, Florida immediately wins the draw because they cook them in the dot, and then they just work it around. The point, and then Adam Henrique is kind of plodding out there, like, "Oh my god, where's the puck?" and breathing through his fucking ass, trying to find a lane to get that puck out. And what happens? Oh, Brad Marchand's open.
Yeah,
whoa,
wide open,
crazy.
just sitting there, because Darnell Nurse is laying on his stomach, and
exactly,
and we don't know where the other defender is, and Nuge is trying to cover a one-time option, and
it's like, and that was the one thing where I will still hold steady in that I still think the Ryan McLeod trade was a good trade, because I do believe Matt Savoy is going to be an awesome player at the NHL level. I believe in him as a player. That is the one thing the Oilers did not address this offseason was they lost speed.
Yeah.
And what did they do? They replaced it with not speed, with old men, with the old folks home. And I believe that it was a major, major, major problem that sunk the team in the Stanley Cup final was the fact that they could not play their game off the rush.
Yep.
They gave into Florida's game a little bit too much. And unfortunately, those old men did not have what it took or did not have what it takes to, win the freaking Stanley Cup. It's crazy. Like it's just they went to the Stanley Cup, and I'm like so down on not down, but like I'm just so disappointed with the
Yeah.
roster construction.
Yeah, and you're hammering on the point of speed. You can tell that the coaching staff, and we'll point at Mark Stewart because he's the one that runs the PK. You can tell that as the playoffs were progressing, because McDavid throughout the regular season was not on the penalty kill. In the first round against LA was not on the penalty kill, but as that penalty kill continued to struggle and leak goals, they started throwing McDavid out on the penalty kill just because he has, like, they realized, we need someone with feet. We need someone that can skate. And maybe, just maybe, because the penalty kill is so chaotic, maybe they get a 2-on-1 and they can get a shorthanded goal. So we'll just hope and pray that McDavid, but like then McDavid is out on the penalty kill. He's out on the power play. And then you're running him 24 minutes at 5-on-5. And by the end of the game, there's literally nothing left in his tank. By the third periods against Florida, nothing left in his tank. And pretty unfair for McDavid to like be put into all, like you want a guy that can play all situations, but they just relied on him too much. And that penalty kill shouldn't have been utilizing him if they had proper speed and tenacity and guys that could, win faceoffs on the kill during the playoffs as well. And I guess the regular season too.
Yeah, I don't like my best players blocking shots on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, um, but no, it's the same thing with like the Dylan Holloway conversation too. Like you probably could have had him playing on the penalty kill if they still had him now,
Yes.
and that would have been nice. But no, I think that's going to be probably is going to be a focus going into this offseason is going to be making sure that that they do have speed in the bottom six and playing on the penalty kill. That's why we saw Bobbert talking about, or the Bob father talking about, he was trying to gas up Kasperi Kapanen because he just signed a $1.3 million extension.
Yeah.
He's like, Blood will play some penalty kill duties, and so.
And he'll play penalty kill in middle six, and please God no, keep Kapanen on that fourth line. Like if he's playing up with Draisaitl or McDavid again, there's a massive problem with your roster here.
Yeah, so I would just appreciate if the Oilers can get a little bit faster in the bottom end. But I mean it's we're crying over spilled milk. But I do think that are we going to talk about the G word conversation when it comes to the coaching staff?
Yes, actually, let's do it. Quickly before that, I did want to talk about Paul Coffey in the defense.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like that. I actually wasn't planning on talking about Dustin Schwartz, but that's actually a great thing. I don't know what his contract situation even looks like. They never report it. They report on all the other coaches, but with Dustin Schwartz, it's like the media knows that the fans are so up in arms that they don't want to say anything.
It's that meme of like the soldier like blocking like the missiles to the girl sleeping.
Yeah,
that's like the media with like Dustin Schwartz. Yeah.
So with Paul Coffey, now he has like very dry humor, but when he was initially hired, like he straight up said in his press conference that he didn't want the job, and they just kept pushing, and he's like, fine, I'll take the job. And like a lot of people were like, was he serious? Was he joking? I think that it was a bit of both. I think legitimately, like he loves hockey and he loves being around the team, but I think he wants to be more of a consultant than like a full-time behind the bench having to run everything. I wanted to know your thoughts on the defense overall for Edmonton. Do you think they were improved from last season overall? And then when we look at them in the playoffs, Paul Coffey's utilization was strange, to say the least, compared to what they did in the regular season. And do you think adding Ekholm in game, was it 6 against Dallas? 5? Game 5 against Dallas.
Yeah.
And then trying to play him over 20 minutes a night against Florida. Was that the right choice? And do we point the finger at Paul Coffey? Is that on the player, organization? I want to know your thoughts on that. I have my own thoughts, but I'll let you share yours first.
I think there's two culprits in this situation. One is Paul Coffey for playing Matthias Ekholm. I mean, I just honestly, after game one, I probably would have, maybe not after game one, but like I just wouldn't have played Matthias Ekholm for the rest of the Stanley Cup final. I think that threw off so much. I think with regards to good juju, and
Yeah.
I'm not a big, not conspiracy theorist, but like a guy that I don't believe too much in like, you know, the spirits, but like I think that jangled the spirits a little bit throwing Matthias Ekholm back in. Um, but there's also another major culprit in this. Mr. 9.25 Darnell Nurse, unfortunately, still needs a babysitter.
Yeah.
And none of the babysitters work for him, and I don't get it. It looked like it was Troy Stetcher there for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then Matthias Ekholm came back, and then that was fine. But then you try to play with Brett Kulak, and Brett Kulak, which we thought could play on his offside last playoffs, and then he couldn't.
Yeah.
And then they tried it again, and he really couldn't. That had an effect long term. And by long term, I mean for the rest of the series. But
Yeah.
I just think like it was bad deployment, and it was also the fact that our what's supposed to be quote unquote best defenseman now no longer our best defenseman with regards to pay scale
Yeah.
was unfortunately their worst defenseman.
Yeah. And then you had an unhealthy Ekholm being asked to play, and they're trying to like, and it's weird because the organization and Paul Coffey himself had to have known, like, how do you not see Darnell Nurse struggling every night in the Cup final, and you're still playing him more at 5-on-5 than Jake Wallman? And Jake Wallman was one of the only defensemen that actually was above water in terms of any metric out there, whether it's underlying or real. Same with Bouchard. And for some reason, Nurse was the one getting the biggest 5-on-5 responsibilities. But in saying that, when I look at the regular season, Darnell Nurse actually had a pretty big bounce back year in terms of his effectiveness on the ice at 5-on-5. He had a much better year. There's that meme where after Ryan Reeves gave him that concussion in November last season, that Darnell Nurse just suddenly remembered how to play hockey again. He just needed a little bump to the noggin. Because it really was like the Darnell Nurse we saw after that hit was night and day different compared to the like previous year and a half. Again, Nurse has had injuries, very well-known injuries in previous playoff years. And he seemed like he was healthy this season. But once the playoffs hit, it just tanks. It doesn't matter who he plays with. Like you said, he needs a babysitter. And Troy Stetcher, yeah, that's good. But like when you look at a big sample size, you don't want to play Troy Stetcher 18, 19 minutes every single night in the playoffs. Eventually,
you're asking a 5'10", $795,000 defenseman to play top 4 minutes. It's a battle you're going to lose.
Exactly. And like, but just, I just don't know. And like, I think I put more blame on the player than the coaches, but the blame has to go on the coach for continuing to just roll certain guys out way more than they should have been rolled out. But, and then everyone says Paul Coffey, oh, well, Evan Bouchard was terrible, but Paul Coffey, he really instilled that confidence in Bouch. Duncan Keith, babysat Bouchard. Matthias Ekholm babysits Bouchard. And it's like, well, no, Bouchard's just good. Like, I think there's an element
player.
There are some of the what is that word where it has nothing to do with numbers. The intangibles. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. There are intangibles that are important, and I'm sure Paul Coffey brought that to the group and Bouchard. But for Darnell Nurse specifically, I know this is still a talk on the coaching staff, but why does Nurse in the playoff 2 years in a row in the playoffs? And honestly, basically every year Edmonton has been in the postseason since Nurse has been with this club. His numbers aren't even close to what they are in the regular season. Why is that? Is it a case of the yips? Like, I don't know what do you even do?
I just don't even think that. I just think that Darnell Nurse is unfortunately not a good defenseman.
Honestly,
I mean, it's like I think that there's no other way to put it. Like it's, and I feel really bad because I do think that, and I've said this a couple times, but like Darnell Nurse's makeup as a player is like catnip for hockey fans and especially for Edmonton, Alberta, residents, which is he's this big 6'4" defenseman with a big frame that can score goals, and he's kind of mean and he'll throw a dirty hit every once in a while, can skate like the wind, but it's just like all tools and no toolbox. And
Yeah.
it's so crazy when you just watch, just like, if you watch the play of even somebody like Brett Kulak versus Darnell Nurse,
Yeah.
is Brett Kulak can effectively get the puck out of his own. He obviously didn't have a very good Stanley Cup final. We all know that. We don't have to, relitigate that.
Yeah.
But it's so clear that one person is just a lot more confident in his ability to play with the puck, and is also just that the coaching staff is a hell of a lot more confident in to play those really important minutes at the end of games.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunately, Darnell is just missing such a crucial part to his game. And unfortunately, he's 30 years old, so I don't think he's ever finding that spot. I mean,
Yeah.
you can watch that. You can watch it. Like, there's the compilation of him just icing the puck in the Stanley Cup final. Like,
I was gonna reference that. It's the funniest thing on the planet, because and look at how many times he's icing it when no one is near him. He's not even being pressured. Like, I don't understand. And again, there's a coaching element, because, and McDavid alluded to it, they're just trying to do the same play over and over, banging their heads against the walls. But yeah, like, where's the hockey IQ, right? And for some players, it's not teachable. You either have it or you don't. You either have that on-ice awareness or you don't. And I agree with you. Nurse just doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
and how do you maximize that player? Like, that's a tough one. But hopefully, obviously, as fans, we can only hope that he figures it out at some point. I just want to see him play average hockey in the playoffs. Just average, baseline.
What is the, like, I think that's an interesting conversation, is like, what does the perfect partner for Darnell Nurse look like? Like, if you could go into the lab, like, is it like a
Chris Russell?
Is it like a Charlie McAvoy type? Is it like somebody that, I mean, I don't watch a lot of Bruins hockey, so I don't know if like does McAvoy shut things down on like the defensive end? Is he like effective at getting the puck out?
I think for Nurse specifically, he needs someone that just like is always in the right spot, so Nurse doesn't start chasing. The biggest thing I noticed with Nurse in the defensive zone is, like, when he's paired with a guy like Bouchard, because Bouch likes to pinch and he likes to make plays with the puck, Nurse is then kind of like, it's like Nurse thinks he has to cover the entire defensive zone. And you see the amount of times I see him in the wrong corner, covering the wrong guys. And then when he realizes and he tries to get back into position, and then he just slides on his stomach to block a pass or a shot. Like, it is mind numbing. I think you just need a guy, and again, a Vinny Desharnais type, not saying Vinny Desharnais, but someone that is just pure shutdown, just never skates past the red line ever, so that Nurse doesn't have to worry about maybe covering certain areas of the ice where he knows that there's a guy.
So you need like the right-handed Adam Pelech or something?
Yeah, like just the most stay-at-home defenseman who just lumbers around in his own little area of the ice, just his own little zone, and Nurse can just focus on what he needs to focus on his side. Because Nurse, it doesn't matter who he plays with, everyone's like, oh, he needs a puck mover, oh, he needs a good skater. Well, he's still chasing everywhere. I found the only time Nurse looked even remotely comfortable, in terms of just not chasing around and chasing the game, is when he's with someone that seems to have at least a good idea of what they're doing in their own zone. And yeah. But we'll move on. I know you want to talk about Dustin Schwartz, so let's pivot to Dustin Schwartz and the goaltending coach situation.
I mean, I don't know how we've gone through. Hold on, I just got to do some math here, okay?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Take your time.
We've gone through, I could be off on this. We've gone through 7 head coaches and 1 goaltending coach. I would love to know, honestly, if somebody could do the research, I would love to know who is the longest tenured staff member the entirety of the Dustin Schwartz era. Because I highly doubt there is any goaltending coach that is still around, that's still around working for their organization that is still there. Like, there's no bloody way. The only person I can think of is John Cooper, and he's a head coach of a National Hockey League team.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. It's like, I don't know. We've gone through 10 years and we haven't developed a Vezina candidate. So I would assume maybe there might be something there, but
oh, don't worry. The Vezina
yeah.
candidates or the top 5 Vezina vote getters, they get those votes after they leave Edmonton. So maybe there's the argument.
Yeah.
Oh, Schwartz, he had it there, but maybe it's the team in front of him that no. I don't buy that the team in front of our goalies is putrid. There are certain aspects of it where certain times it's not great. But, this comes with the Bouchard discourse. They see the puck go in the net behind them. They want to point the finger. And, but like you said, how does this coach specifically not only survive 7 head coach changes, but also survive the media around it? Because Edmonton media is pretty tough in general. And when certain guys are no longer part of the solution in Edmonton, the media will immediately turn on them. They'll love them until they're no longer the guy, and then the media just yeah.
So I'm in Ontario, and I sometimes will listen to Edmonton Sports Talk Radio.
Yeah,
and I listened to Dustin Nielsen this morning, and I listened to Ryan Rashog's hit on that show. I like Ryan Marchand. I think he seems like a nice guy. I don't know. I've never met him before.
Mm-hmm.
I have no ill will towards any of the members of the Edmonton media. Nothing like that.
I do, but I'm not going to say anything.
But but my biggest problem is as fans being gaslit into believing the opposite of something that was said before, which was I heard Ryan Rashog, and I'm not joking, say on Nielsen's show this morning, maybe the Oilers don't get another goaltender, but maybe a change of voice at the goaltending coach will make a difference. So we've been told this entire time that a goalie coach doesn't make a difference, because that's what you guys have been telling us, is that goaltending coaches don't make a difference on a goalie's performance.
Yeah.
So what the hell is it? So what now, because the Oilers can't get a new goalie because they are either out of assets or out of cap space, or they're too slow to the gun to try and take advantage of a situation, Oiler fans are now going to be fed this idea that, oh, well, we can hire a new coach. That will probably change things.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Oilers get a new goalie coach. I'm super into keeping Stuart Skinner to try and see if they can figure out his problems. I know there's some lateral movement concerns. I totally understand that. I would also just like to see if there is something to salvage with Stuart Skinner with, I don't know, a Sean Burke type, or I don't know, an Ian Clark type, one of these awesome goalie coaches around the league. I don't get how this team will put millions and millions and millions of dollars into player development and psychology coaches, but for some reason can't get a fucking goaltending coach or pay out the nose for a goalie coach that's willing to overhaul everything. And can we become the organization that turns a friggin' pizza delivery driver into a 920 goalie? What the hell? Why can't it be us?
Right. And not even a 9, fans just want a 905, a consistent 905. Oh my God. It's crazy.
910. I prefer 910.
910. Okay. Yeah, I say 905 just because the Oilers have high-end offense. You don't need, but I do like the 910. Yeah. I don't think it's a coincidence that Edmonton's best performing goaltender in the last 5 years was a guy who had his own thing going, and that was Mike Smith. I don't think you ever listened to anything Dustin Schwartz said. Mike Smith came from a different school of hockey, a different era, a different way to play the game in net, and he had his own guy, and he did things his own way, and it worked for him. When you look at Stu, if he starts struggling and he gets yanked numerous times in succession, and then you hear him in interviews what are you doing to work on your game? I'm working with Dustin Schwartz. It just I just sit there and I'm like, oh no, that's obviously not the answer. And then you see him continue to, like you said, the lateral movement, the amount of times that a goal is scored and he falls face first into the ice. I don't know what that is. Why is he falling forward on his stomach after goals? But Stu is good when he can see the puck and he's set. It's everything else, literally everything else, that he doesn't know how to make the save. And it's frustrating. We saw so much potential there. His rookie season, I think he still should have won the Calder just based on the impact that he had on the team. He had 38 goals saved above expected, a 915 save percent. He was phenomenal in his rookie year with Edmonton. And then, of course, we saw in the playoffs 2023 just absolutely collapsed. Pulled 4 times, I think, 3 times in the Vegas series, and they kept putting him out there. But again, they had a goalie like Jack Campbell, who just wasn't the guy. Thanks, Ken Holland, for that. I do agree. I think a different voice. And you keep Stu to see if there's something. He's only 26, so I think
he's still young enough.
He's still young, and there's a lot of goalies that don't even make the NHL until they're 26. So Stu has had a lot of time at the NHL level. Different voice, different coach, help him work on a couple different things. It's like in baseball. Sometimes you just need a hitting coach to just adjust something, whether it's just a mechanical movement, maybe it's a mindset. I don't know. A guy like, I don't know if you watch a lot of baseball. Jose Bautista wasn't really in anything until he got to Toronto. One of the coaches on Toronto saw the potential in his power, had him adjust when he lifts that leg and when he starts moving forward to get that torque in the swing. And then he hits 54 home runs or whatever it was, his like first full season with the Blue Jays. So, a different voice should be needed. And Dustin Schwartz can remain as some sort of consultant video coach because it seems like he's smart, where it sounds like he knows how to pick apart other goalies, but he doesn't know how to coach our goalie to keep the puck from going in the net. And if he does know how, then it's a goaltending issue. But I don't think it's coincidence that Cam Talbot plays phenomenal his first year with the team, and then his game goes down the longer he's with us. Mikko Koskinen starts off great, but the longer he's with the team, play goes down. Stuart Skinner starts off great, play goes down. Poor Jack Campbell, I don't think ever really got established as the starter for Edmonton, but that might be the one exception where Campbell, he didn't start strong. But yeah, Dustin Schwartz, it is far, far overdue for him to just move on. I'll see, and it's not just Edmonton media. I see other media be out of town media be like, oh, Dustin Schwartz is great. He works with these guys. He works with Tristan Jarry. And then I'm like, oh, no, not Tristan Jarry. Oh, God. Maybe there's a reason why Tristan Jarry's also struggling too.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. So I agree.
I was going to make a really poor taste joke, but I.
Oh, no. Okay. Brutal. But hopefully, if the media is now starting to talk about a potentially different voice for the goaltending coach situation, is that the organization just trying to fan the flames because the team hasn't acquired a new goalie yet and fans are super on edge? I know it's only June 30th and there's a lot of time to address it, but the time to address it was probably 2 years ago. And now we're hitting the point where it's well, if we don't get an upgrade on Stu, we're going to run the same tandem again. And they know fans are going to go nuts if that happens. But you can fan the flames a bit if you move Dustin Schwartz somewhere else and you bring in a different voice, because then fans might be able to mentally justify, okay, maybe a new coach, new voice, Stu's young. Let's see what happens.
I think it just also comes back to you have to start developing stuff in-house. You have to have a guy in place where, that was the one thing I've always really liked about what Vegas does, is that they had Fleury, and then would have been Brossoit. No, Leonard took over after Fleury.
Yeah.
And then Leonard and then there was a Brossoit moment too, post Leonard, and then it became Aiden Hill. And it's and it's the same. It was the same with Phoenix when you look at Sean Burke's career. Phoenix had the same sort of thing where it was Ilya Brizgalov, and then it went to Mike Smith, and then I'm not entirely sure. Oh, I guess it would have been Kemper after Mike Smith.
Yeah.
And so there was this constant lineage of new goalies that were coming up, and you could let these guys walk for big contracts and then let them get paid by other organizations and then poop their pants in the playoffs. So it's we could at least start to develop these guys. If we're if we're putting money into developing players coming from overseas or just out of trades or waiver claims or anything like that, why don't they put the same amount of effort into looking after their goaltending? Because it seems like Daryl Cates has a pretty open checkbook. Just pay, literally pay Sean Burke.
Yeah.
And I know he interviewed for the job for GM in 2019. Just say, Sean, we'll give you what you wanted for the GM role. Just can you run our goaltending?
Just come here.
Yes, please, sir.
Just speaking
we suck.
Speaking of the interviewing for the GM job, who the Oilers let pass. I'm not going to get into it, but knowing Bill Zito was a finalist, still, it's heartbreaking to me.
It's not only that. You can look at. You know what? I'll talk about this when we talk about your question of the day, because I do think that yeah.
I like it.
Okay.
Free agency discussion now on the screen for those watching. I am going to put up the list of free agents sorted by most points, and then I'll also pull up the goaltending free agents because the Oilers, there's some holes that they need to fill. They don't have a ton of cap space. Now, actually, I should update the salary cap situation. So now they're down to $1 million in salary cap. I actually have to go on Puckpedia real quick.
Even less than that because it's 11.05. So it'd be like what, 1 point? No, it'd be a 500K.
Yeah, let's take a look here because 550K is what they have left with this.
Wow, that is incredibly depressing. And then if you send down 2 players, it probably brings it to like $2 million or something like that.
Yeah, probably something like that. We can take the RFA away from Bouchard now. I'll just get rid of that in front of his name. So he is re-signed for the next 4 years. That's great. You look at the pending UFAs, so it's pretty obvious that they don't have the money to bring back Connor Brown. I don't think they were ever bringing Klingberg back. Derek Ryan's career's done. Jeff Skinner's gone to Corey Perry. He wants $2 million plus a year for 2 years. There's no way. No way. Please run away from a 40-year-old that's asking for more than $2 million a year.
Yeah.
So the Oilers have basically no cap space. If they move Arvidsson, that frees up $4 million. So they don't have wiggle room to really plug anyone into this lineup. Now, on the screen here, like they have a lineup. Like for the core is still here. What do you think Edmonton should do? And do you think there's enough wiggle room to maybe find someone that no one's really talking about as a free agent? Do you have any names that you've kind of thought of?
Well, here's the thing. I think that just it all begins, starts, and ends with one player, and I don't think they can get it done now. But it's Nick Ehlers.
Yeah.
Like that's who I would be going for all out. I would be putting a full court press on to get Nick Ehlers on this team. I just think that he is. I mean, he's clearly with Mitch Marner, who's about to sign in Vegas, and I know there's a lot of Brock Besser talk, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on that as well. But like for me, I have always said my number one thing I want more on this team is more creators throughout the lineup, and I want guys that can actually drive play. I am so sick of paying guys to come to this team and be complimentary pieces.
Yeah.
It is time that the Oilers get somebody that can come in and play with the puck on their stick and actually create offense on their own. And that's what I think Nick Ehlers can do.
Okay. I like that. I also agree on the Nick Ehlers thing. Obviously he'd be great. I mean, the Oilers have to clear a ton of cap. I don't know how they do it.
And I know he's not coming to Edmonton. I know,
Okay.
but a boy can dream. A boy can dream.
Absolutely. You did mention Brock Besser, and there is some smoke there. It sounds like, many media members have reported that he would be willing to come to Edmonton. Now capwages.com has his projected salary cap at almost $8.5 million, which I think makes sense. That's kind of what I projected as well. Brock Besser is someone where, you say you want a play driver, someone that can make plays with the puck, can skate with it, can actually do something and carry it into the zone. And Brock Besser is more of a shooter. He waits for someone to feed him, and he can shoot from anywhere. He can score from anywhere, go down the power play. But, with the Oilers power play, they have their 5 set guys, and it never changes. The second unit gets 10 seconds per game. Besser's someone that I like, and I've talked positively about him on Twitter, even as recently as today, because I still think they need a volume shooter with McDavid or with Draisaitl because they create so much, and a lot of times plays just die on Zach Hyman's great when he's within 20 feet of the net, but plays die on his stick a lot. He's not a good playmaker. He's not good at passing. Nuge, his boots are slowing. He's on the wrong end of 30. I love Nuge. Smart player, but again, a lot of plays die on his stick when it comes to trying to drive offense. A guy like Besser, I would love just because he's a volume shooter. I'd like more volume shooters. Obviously, I don't think Edmonton could get the cap to work for Brock Besser, and knowing what Besser wants, I think you're better off trying to, find some value deals instead. That's just the cap situation with Edmonton. They right now we have Podkolzin in the top 6, and Podkolzin's not a shooter, but he can get the puck, which is huge. And when him and Draisaitl are together, they do drive play. Like the analytics show that they drive play. So maybe you have Podkolzin in the offseason, and then get a full training camp, and maybe you get him to work on his shot because I think he has a really underrated shot. If Arvids,
I think he's gonna. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I said this on Twitter not that long ago, but I think Victor Arvidsson, like, my hot take is that I do believe he could become like a 50 to 60 point player. It's going to take a lot, and it's more of like it's a more of a testament to like what I believe he could be with proper development in place.
Yeah.
But that guy's got it. Like that guy has the juice. I can tell you that for free.
Yeah. Pud Colson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought I heard Arvidsson, so I just wanted to make sure I was on the right page here.
I probably did say Arvidsson.
No, it's all good. And then Henrique is someone that I wish they could get away from. Like, it sucks because Henrique has his family, and like, I signed the 3-year deal, but like, if you could clear Henrique and Arvidsson, well, now you have about $7 million of cap space, almost 8, and then you could plug a good player in, but then you're hoping guys like Tomasek, who they just signed out of the was it Sweden or Finland? My apologies to the Tomasek fans out there.
David Tomasek, I believe they signed him out of the SHL.
Okay, because and like he's 29 and yeah, okay, he's Czechian. So, and and you look at their top prospects, like how close is Sam O'Reilly? Connor Clattenburg is still a project to me. Bo Akey, injuries have really hampered his development. Now, Berezkin from Russia, great player. Can he come over? Can he be impact? Roby Yarventi, again, another player whose injury history has just been brutal. Like Bowman's gonna have to be creative. Whether we have news. What's breaking now?
It's not Oilers news. It's not Oilers news.
I was like, oh my god,
Marner has agreed to an 8-year deal with Vegas.
Oh boy, that's terrific because that will allow us to easily segue into our Toronto Vegas drama. We'll talk about Toronto Vegas drama before Stu and picks, although we already talked about the goaltending a lot, so we could even just skip Stu and picks. We're beating a dead horse with those two. The Toronto Vegas stuff. So Mitch Marner, for those of you watching at home, I'll put it on the screen. Elliot Friedman has tweeted, Mitch Marner has been traded to Vegas. And then he has also signed, according to Darren Dreger, an 8-year deal. He signed the 8-year deal with the Leafs and then traded to Vegas. So, now the big news here, for those of you who might not have been aware, Elliot Friedman was saying that, was it Elliot Friedman on his 32 Thoughts was saying that, there was potentially some, what's the word when you're negotiating when you're not supposed to?
Oh, tampering. Some tampering allegations.
Tampering allegations. Now, it sounded like Toronto thought maybe Vegas was tampering, and then Toronto was trying to hold Vegas over the fire and be like, well, we'll just let the tampering go by if you give us some good players. So you might have had Vegas tampering. You might have had Toronto extorting Vegas for tampering. We have no idea what's going to come out of any of this. It could all just be fluff. We have no idea because this is just brand new news, Marner to Vegas right now. That's crazy. We get 2 breaking news stories as we're recording. This is wild. What are your thoughts on the Toronto Vegas situation, and what do you think would be like the funniest outcome here if it was determined that there was tampering? Because if you are found to be tampering, you can be fined up to $5 million. You can have to forfeit draft picks. Whatever contract was signed could just be null and void. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you think would be the funniest outcome from this?
Well, for one, Austin, it's 8 by 12 for Marner. So that's the deal. Okay. That's pretty cheap for Mitch Marner.
I was going to say, I think 12 is a good deal.
Yep, that's a very good deal for Mitch Marner. Secondly, it's funny that it's finally come around to Vegas kind of getting in shit. Because they've just been getting away with this for far too long. What I'm more curious about is this like Alex Pietrangelo thing. Like, is Alex Pietrangelo actually out for the season, or are we gonna have a wink? Like a little oopsie daisy. Oh, I feel better. I just took an Advil. I'm feeling a little bit better, guys. Yeah. So I'll be back. But I mean, they just, I just don't know how Vegas constantly does this. I just don't get it. And there have been like, I was listening to PDOcast earlier today, and they were talking about how, one of the theories behind this whole deal was that Marner like wanted to save face or something like that. And I'm like, no, it's so clear that Toronto is accusing them of tampering, and Vegas doesn't want to lose a draft pick because at this point, I would assume they'd probably lose a draft pick or be fined a shitload of money.
Yeah. But maybe if you're in Vegas's team, like, again, if you're into the conspiracy theories, you think maybe they're coddled by the league a little bit since their inception. Maybe Vegas, they just were never really worried about it. Maybe they're like, you know what, we'll take our risk with the tampering. Maybe we only have to lose like a second rounder or something. But I think the funniest outcome would be this contract being voided by the league and Marner just becomes a UFA anyways. And like, he's not allowed to sign in. Like, I think that would be the funniest outcome. But in terms,
that would be hilarious. I would love that.
But again, until we know what all happened and what went down, who knows? Maybe nothing will come of it. Maybe Friedman's info was wrong. Maybe there really was nothing. Maybe it was just all media to like pressure Vegas to like get a deal done. Maybe like make Vegas feel like they were tampering even if they weren't. Who knows, man? Who knows what goes on behind the scenes in NHL head offices? I would love to be a fly on the wall sometimes.
I will say, if there's one front office that I should not be trusting, it is the Vegas Golden Knights. I believe that they are full of a bunch of scoundrels and scam artists, needless to say.
Yeah.
So I believe any bad thing that is said about the Vegas Golden Knights. So I will I will agree with you on that one. I believe that they're up to no good, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
up to no good. You did mention Pietrangelo. Now, there's a lot of media reports
Yep.
that he'll miss the whole season, needs multiple surgeries. Oh, where have we heard that before? Cough, cough, Evander Kane in Edmonton, cough, cough, who did get investigated, but apparently the league has closed that investigation and nothing will come of it. And the new CBA, which hasn't quite been ratified yet, but the new CBA, which should be ratified later in July, they're going to vote on it. Is going to eliminate that LTIR loophole where whatever lineup you dress for the playoffs, it has to be cap compliant, which obviously, like, duh, that makes sense. But I do think it's funny that like 3 years ago, GMs weren't concerned. Edmonton does it with Kane. Potentially, Kane obviously had surgeries, like multiple surgeries. But I just think it's funny that a Canadian team does it, and now all of a sudden this is like a huge deal for the CBA to get done.
My biggest problem with that whole thing was, like, and I've said this, I believe, on our show, but like, Nikita Kucherov wore a T-shirt and threw it in the league's face.
Yeah.
Saying that they went, like, what was it, $19 million over the cap or something like that?
Yep.
Like, he threw it in their face. And what happened? Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Here's your Stanley Cup, Nikita. Like,
Yeah.
no problem. But, oh, Evander, you can't come back until one game has been played, sir.
Yeah.
And then he's fine. But Matthew Tkachuk also goes on LTIR. Matthew, you're good. Game 1, perfect.
Yeah.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Big thumbs up for that. And you know, it eventually got to the point where, like, you know, there was word that the league was still investigating Evander Kane's situation. And then Bob Stauffer, and like, it's sad that it even comes to this, has to put out on his radio show, and this, I think, truly did kind of get the league to step back, because they are not going to have anyone sympathizing on the league's end when you find out that one of the surgeries was to remove a tumor from Evander Kane. I don't know if you saw or heard that.
Yeah, I did remember. Yeah, I forgot about that.
There was no specifics on the type, whether it was benign, like we don't know the situation. We shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to know someone's personal health information. Yeah. But the fact that Bob Stauffer felt that he had to put that out into the universe so that, you know, fans look at the league and go, can you not investigate them? Because that's crazy that you would think that there's like malicious intent for a guy that just had a tumor removed. And I don't blame Stauffer and the team for potentially just putting that out and be like, hey, like, clearly, you know, the timing of the surgery shouldn't matter because it is still a surgery. It is still someone's personal. It's their body, man. Like, it's nuts that Edmonton, they do it. And now you have the LTIR loophole that is going to be shut down. But yeah, with Pietrangelo likely potentially on the shelf for the whole year, that will, for now, clear up about what does he make? 9? What does Pietrangelo make? I guess I think
8.5, 8 or 8.5. I think
8.8. So, and obviously,
8.8, yeah.
He was injured last year. We knew he was injured last year. He did play against Edmonton in the playoffs, but he didn't look anywhere near 100%. But the fact he only has this year, next year left on his contract, like, is this going to be a Robidaw Island situation where they just quietly, they're like, you're 35, like, maybe you just go away, give us some cap space, like, I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I just feel like Vegas always finds like some form of a loophole somehow, and I mean, you can say that this is like a can blame it on state tax. You can blame it on whatever. At the end of the day, they have a very creative GM that is very cutthroat, and we all thought that would lead back to players not wanting to sign in Vegas. Well, surprise, surprise, players still want to go there.
Yep.
It also just goes back to once again frustrate me about with everything that goes on with the Oilers and how behind the eight ball they are with everything and how they're not forward thinking and how it took them 8 years of the Connor McDavid era to finally, or 9 years of the McDavid era to finally, hire a full analytics department.
Yeah.
And we're once again sort of recycle. Like, I'm surprised Chris Knobloch is the coach. Like, genuinely, I think it's shocking that we had Jay Woodcroft and then we had Chris Knobloch. I'm perplexed it's not Peter Laviolette. Like, that's where I'm at right now.
That's the types that they hired before, right? Like coaches that would
this is
completely
old boys
brush.
club.
Exactly. The old boys club, they would brush off. And like, I think that's what's most disappointing. Just before we close things up with the question of the day, one of the most disappointing things in the McDavid era is like Woodcroft, when he was with Bakersfield, used to talk very progressively about how he viewed the game. And he would reference expected goals and different on ice metrics that they track. And like, he seemed very forward thinking, and you could tell the style that he played. It was so like high octane, and the team would just scored at will, man. Like McDavid had 64 goals the one year. Like it's just, like the record setting power play. And then, of course, we know what happened. They get the slow start, and then Woodcroft leaves, and then they bring in Knobloch. And Knobloch, again, like you said, he's a guy that he's old school, but he understands the new school approach, which is great.
Yeah.
Because the team went from, like, McClellan to Hitchcock to Tippett to, like, guys that, you know, Tippett used to make fun of Korski and Fensky, as Dave Tippett would say.
Truly, one of my least favorite Oilers head coaches was Dave Tippett. I just despised when man spoke.
The only thing about Tippett that I liked is that he loved Puljujarvi, and Puljujarvi loved him. It's crazy that was the one coach that actually loved Puljujarvi.
It's so bizarre. He hates Mikko Koskinen, but Jesse Puljujarvi is like his favorite player in existence. Like, I still remember I actually interviewed Zach Lang on, like, I think it was it was on our first season, but I was talking to him about it, and he's like, we were talking about our frustration with the whole like Mikko Koskinen versus, oh my God, Brad Marchand just re-signed in Florida.
Oh no! Oh my God! Well, I mean, they're getting
6 years. 6 years, just under 32 million total. So it's 5 point something.
6 years? He's gonna be 42.
Yeah.
What?
Oh my God.
Oh my God! What is Marchand? I mean, hey, get the bag, bro. Get another cup, probably. That's crazy. What?
Oh my God! You have picked the perfect time to get me onto a show where I just completely spiral out of control and I lose my collective mind.
Oh my God.
But they did it. They did it. Those rat bastards. And so how many years of that do you think he actually plays? We're going to say 3 years?
3
years, and then
tops.
3 years, and then he gets put on Robidas Island.
Yes, 100%. That is 6 years.
My ankle hurts. Yeah.
That is absolutely outrageous for his age. Yeah. Are you? Oh my God, yo, maybe they have to look at the CBA before they vote on it.
Oh, so it's like 5.1 or something.
Yeah.
Hold on. Sorry, I'm sorry. This is kind of rinky dink here, but
like 5.15,
5.33 for Marchand.
5.33. But 6 years. Oh my God, Okay, we have to do like recordings more often. You and I together, we're getting all the breaking news right now. With
Soon enough, we're gonna get like a Jeremy Swayman trade at this rate.
Right? I'm actually scared to stay recording because
if that happened, I would probably honestly take my pants off and run around. I'd be like, "Holy shit, Austin, we're in for a different kind of video tonight, my friend." But okay, last thing I'll say on Dave Tippett was I remember interviewing Zach Lang, and we were talking about how Mikko Koskinen, or how Dave Tippett treated Koskinen versus Mike Smith, and you'd be like, you know, Mikko Koskinen would allow like 3 goals on like 42 shots, and it would be the Oilers' loss, and then Dave Tip would be like, "Yeah, you just need another save from your goalie," and then it would be like the very next game was like Mike Smith allows 4 on 10 shots, and he's like Schmitty battles.
Yeah, he
like,
battles. Yeah, he's
just a battler.
He battles.
Yeah, Schmitty battles. It's like, dog, you can't even bring your mustache back for this. Like, give me a break, dog.
Right? Oh man.
Yeah, but wow, this sucks, man. I hate the sport of hockey. I mean,
I just hate the Florida Panthers and
understand
Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah, I can't stand like
those are my 2 least favorite teams.
Jealousy is the greatest form of flattery. Yeah, I know, but I hate it so much. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate that I'm looking at an athletic chart that tells me that Evan Bouchard is making $10.5 million and his market value is 15.7, but it only goes for 4 seasons.
Yeah. Yep. This is, oh my God. I'm sure you're going to have a lot to talk about in your next episode too. Cause like,
yeah, this is going to be a nightmare.
All right.
And like I said, we haven't even recorded like a post cup final episode yet. So this is
man. Yeah. So you have even more fuel to add to the,
it's going to be like a 4-hour episode at this rate.
Jesus.
But yeah, anyways, Florida sucks. Don't like Dave Tippett. Stay out of my dreams, both of you. I'm very sick of it.
We're going to move on to the question of the day, and we're going to wrap things up. Question of the day is, what would be considered a success this offseason for the Edmonton Oilers? Now, it could be a specific player type. It could be a role. It could be coaches. What do you think is like an optimal offseason for Edmonton? Now, they have Bouchard locked up, so that's one piece of the pie that's been locked up. I can bring up the depth chart once again. What is the, like, most important thing for Edmonton right now that you would be like, that was a successful offseason once we hit September?
Okay. I will give you the answer, which will be, this is my perfect world. And it only requires 2 moves. Okay. It only requires 2 moves. This is the perfect world. I give Stan Bowman a big fat kiss on the lips. Okay.
Okay.
Which is 1, trade for a goalie.
Yep.
So it's got to be either, Sorokin. And my dream is Swayman. You buy the dip. You buy the dip right now. And if Sweeney's like, and I know that you're like, you're a Boston guy, probably highly unlikely it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if Sweeney were to be, if Sweeney was taking was off his rocker, I'd be like, all right, let's go take advantage of this.
Well, look at who he traded to Florida at the deadline. He can be off his rocker sometimes. We've seen Sweeney be off his rocker.
So give me a ridiculous Jeremy Swayman trade, and then give me an impact forward. So preferably Nikolai Ehlers. I know it's probably not going to happen, but that would be my perfect offseason. If you could just get 1 forward, goalie, done. I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
Everything else can just do whatever. But what happens is, and I think, I'm being honest, if I can only have one, because I just don't think that they can get the goalie. Like, that's my biggest problem, is like they don't have the assets to get a goalie.
Yeah.
If they can only get one thing on the free agent market, give me Nikolai Ehlers and just work him wherever you can in the lineup, because he not only provides top 6 versatility, but he also provides middle 6 versatility. I could easily see Nikolai Ehlers running a third line and doing like the 2016 Penguins thing with where Phil was running the third line. I think that would honestly be perfect. What about you? What does your optimal offseason look like?
Optimal offseason, pretty similar to you. Obviously, I would have included, make sure we get Bouchard locked up. He's locked up. It's not 8 years, it's 4. There's going to be a lot to talk about with that. I will have a separate video for that. A McDavid extension, whatever it looks like, has to get done. I don't want to go into the training camp with him not signed. Now, I don't think there's a rush. We saw Draisaitl. He didn't sign his contract until, was it end of August or early September last year, his extension. So McDavid signed, Bouchard signed. That's one that's already down. Goaltender, I don't care who it is. I legitimately don't care who it is. Goalie. Whether you want to upgrade Stu or Pickard, or you want to bring someone in that pushes Olivier Rodrigue that could maybe put, like, I don't care. Goalie, any goalie, bring a goalie in. and a volume shooter. I want a volume shooter that can actually play for Chris Knoblauch. Like, if there's someone out there that Knoblauch really likes on the market, sign whoever Knoblauch wants. Because it was clear that when they signed Jeff Skinner, Knoblauch did not want him right from the beginning. If you looked at all the behind the scenes stuff with the Oilers Plus, I don't know if you saw his reaction to them going after Jeff, but I think he had a bias against Jeff right from the beginning. So also just taking a quick look at the goalies, like free agent goalies. Alex Lyon, Jake Allen, probably the only two that I would even entertain personally. I don't know if you sign either.
Yeah, I honestly, I'm out on Jake Allen, to be completely honest, because I think Jake Allen's going to make like a 4x5. Like that's my concern.
And you can't you can't have another Jack Campbell situation.
No, you can't. And well, also he's 34 years old. Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd be open to a couple of the sort of like, outside candidates for deals. Like, I'd be into a guy like a Mason Appleton. I'd be into somebody like if you did want to upgrade the D-core, Nate Perbix would be really fun.
Yeah.
I was looking at Mikey Esamont would also be another guy that I would really like as like a nice buy low candidate. Maybe that's a guy that you can get for, $1 million or whatever.
Yeah.
That might be able to play in and around your lineup. So, but I think you also just got to take advantage of the trade market too. Like, there's got to be some teams that are willing to move off of guys.
Well, there has to be. And I know the Oilers, there's a lot of guys with no moves. A guy like Arvidsson, who is clearly willing to waive, and I think they did try and move him at the deadline. I have a sneaky suspicion that the Oilers had a couple things that they tried to get done that they just weren't able to get done. But yeah, I think just get your core, continue to be locked up, get any goalie, get a volume shooter, and they're gonna have speed. Any kind of speed into the lineup is key. And then of course we'll figure out the coaching staff stuff. That's a Chris Knoblauch thing. I don't know who would even be available. So for those of you tuning in at home, make sure you let us know your answer to what would be considered a success this offseason, and also give us your immediate reaction, all the breaking news that happened during today's podcast. Nolan, I want to thank you so much for being on today. How can the fans at home find you? Where is it easiest to find you? Just close off however you want with an outro. Let them know where you are so that I can make sure we send everyone your way.
Well, I'm going to mention one more thing after I'm done here.
Yes.
But you can follow us on wherever you get your podcasts from. It's one for one. Like I said, it's between me and my friend Miles. We've been doing it for quite a while. It's a fun show if you're looking for something just like pretty casual. We crack a lot of jokes. We talk about dumb pop culture stuff from time to time. Miles knows nothing about movies. I love movies, and I'll just like basically be like, "Hey, Miles, have you seen like Seven Samurai?" He'll be like, "Are you talking about Shrek?" And so it's just like dumb stuff like that. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff, check us out. I would love to say that come find us on YouTube and subscribe, but I have one episode on there, and it took me forever to edit it, so I have not put one up since then. Hopefully this summer we'll get a little bit more active with regards to video and stuff, but you can find us wherever you get all of your podcasts and stuff, so make sure you subscribe, rate 5 stars, all that good stuff. But Austin, I wanted to just quickly read off this last Bob McKenzie tweet here, okay?
Oh God, if it's Bob, Bob's back. Let's Bobby Margarita. Let's hear it.
And I feel proud reading this. Pending trade call being completed, as was previously reported / speculated, assuming it goes through, it will be Nick Waugh to Toronto and sign Mitch Marner to Vegas Golden Knights. The trade is, I believe, 1-for-1.
Oh my God. They had to do the 1-for-1, huh?
That's the name of the show.
It is 1-for-1. Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
That's incredible. I'm going to put that tweet up here. I'll let everyone see the Bob McKenzie tweet. The trade is 1-for-1. Of course, it has been how many years since the actual 1-for-1, the haul for Larson? That was June 29th.
It's been 9 years to the day.
9 years, yeah.
Or yeah.
9 years and 1 day to the day.
9 years and 1 day. Yeah, there it is.
That's crazy.
But
that's incredible way to end the episode, man. That's so good. That's amazing. I will make sure that I leave all of your socials and links to the podcasts in the description of today's episode. Yeah.
One last thing. Sorry, Austin.
Yeah,
Sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you again for having me on. I also wanted to mention too, just like really like I don't want to say like because it makes me sound. I know you're older than me, so it makes me sound like a big brother in a way. But like, really proud of just how far you've come. To be completely honest, like I've seen you. I mean, you've been doing this for what, like a year and a half or something like that. So
Yeah.
you should be really, really, really proud of how far you've come. And like I was talking about it with I was talking about it the other night, and I was like, what's crazy to me is that I have like a cringe YouTube follow that I've always kept an eye on for like 10 years, and he's like one of my favorites. I never tell him, or I never want to like let the animal out of its cage, so I always kind of keep him close to me. But
Yeah.
I've watched this guy for like 10 years. This guy's been making YouTube videos for no joke like 13 years now, and you have more subscribers than him.
Oh,
And
jeez.
I'm not to compare you to some
No, no.
guy that, but I'm just saying it's like amazing that what you have done in like a pretty niche area on YouTube is really, really, really impressive, because like we all know hockey is not the most popular sport in the world, and the fact that you're doing it, and you're doing it while spreading a message of positivity and ultimately having fun is the most important thing, is like super impressive. So congratulations to you, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do down the road.
I truly appreciate that. Thank you. That for those of you watching at home, that was not scripted or anything. I didn't know he was gonna do that. So I'm humbled every day, not only by your support, Nolan, but from the fans all over oil country, across Canada and the world. There are people that tune in from all over the world, and every single day, whether it's a video or live stream that I do, the support that we have, the positive community, and of course, all of you are the reason why I do this, especially you, Nolan, and the One for One podcast. Like I said, when I first started making videos, you were legitimately the first like media type that ever even retweeted anything that I put out. You were one of the first ones to reach out to me, and I will always be thankful for that. That truly did drive me to continue pushing and producing content. So I wouldn't even be doing this without your support when I first started. So thank you.
Well, you're doing a heck of a job. And also, Columbus is doing a heck of a job because they just re-signed Ivan Provorov to a 7 times 8.5.
Oh my God. Okay, so we got to end the show, because the longer we stay on, the league is just gonna I don't know what's gonna happen. There's way too much news happening here. We're gonna sign off. Thank you to everyone at home. Thank you, Nolan. Before we head out, before free agency, have a safe Canada Day weekend if you celebrate here in Canada. Tell someone that you love them. And as always, fight like a kid, fight like Ben. Let's go Oilers. For myself, I'll be live for Free Agents Frenzy tomorrow, but it looks like there are very little names to sign. So we'll see you soon, Oil Country. Take care.